Good morning and welcome back to the GB4 Championship here at Donington Park. A much colder day today. There's cloud overhead around about 15 degrees. It was maybe 21 degrees yesterday as we saw Tom Mills win the second race of the day. The first race was the first race from Silverstone, which was postponed due to rain a couple of weekends ago. And that second race was the first race of this race weekend. But either way, Tom Mills absolutely dominant. We can see his team at KMR Sport behind us getting his car ready. Let's see how he went to 2 victories here at Donington Park on the first day of this race weekend yesterday.
Highlights from round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and Tom Mills was once again starting from pole position. Colin Queen got a poor start on the front row of the grid, dropping back behind Cooper Webster on the race down towards the first corner. Up to second position for the Evans Grand Prix driver as he would fight his way through. Tom Mills with a decent start though, and pulling away from the grouping behind. The battle for 4th position though saw Harry Reynolds just about keeping Liam McNeely at bay as they were racing their way through McLean's on the first lap. Up towards Coppice, and once again it was still Harry Reynolds keeping himself ahead. McNeely was getting close though with a few attempts coming down to Goddard's. Tom Mills was pulling away for the race lead, but was slowly being caught back up again. McNeely once again to the outside at Redgate, and this time he would send it in deep all the way around the outside, just about clearing Harry Reynolds and then racing his way down the hill. Reynolds though would give it a good effort coming back towards the old hairpin. However, unfortunately, it's a little bit too much. Around the outside he'd go, out onto the gravel, and unfortunately for a bit of a spin. Tom Mills had been caught by Cooper Webster and Colin Queen as they were racing their way through the likes of the Melbourne hairpin and up towards Goddard's, and it was 3 for the race lead, separated by very, very little. Back down the order, and the likes of Sid Smith was running wide, unfortunately costing him a position back down towards 12th after a stunning first race of the weekend. Meanwhile, Tom Mills was coming up towards the final corner and out of it as a race victor. For the 4th time this season, the championship leader extends that over Cooper Webster and Colin Queen.
2 incredible drives there from Tom Mills means he's already won 2 races this weekend, a potential of 4 race wins this weekend. With that extra race from Silverstone, he could become the first GB4 driver to get 4 trophies across a weekend. Very, very impressive from Tom and the KMR Sport team. Now, a guy he used to race last year was Max Maserati. We caught up with him yesterday. He was wearing a coat on the grid in the searing sunshine because Max Maserati does whatever he wants. Now, as a former GB4 driver himself, we paired him up with our co-commentator Piers, a former GB3 driver, and they walked around the track here at Donington Park to take a look at some of the important corners and how you want to approach them if you're a GB4 driver.
Right, Max, we've head out on a track walk and we're here at Turn 1 Redgate corner, which is of course the first corner on the circuit, but also the first corner for the start of the race. Often funnels down here. What are you telling your driver, Harry Burgoyne Jr., about the start here at Redgate? Because it's quite an open entry, isn't it?
It is. It is quite open on the entry, and you just don't want to be on the outside of this corner. It's one that can tighten up as you go through it, and you can actually see how cambered it is as you come into it. You know, you need to get into this little part here where the circuit is, and make sure that, you know, when you're at speed, you're apexing. Obviously, not hitting this big thing here because that'll do damage to the car.
Yeah.
It will send you out wide into the gravel or into somebody else if you're side by side with them. But
Yeah.
if you can get into this little part here, it will hook the car in and they will you to fire out on the exit.
Yeah.
And of course that means that if you're 3 wide going into here, like a lot of people on the first lap,
Yeah.
it's quite often that the guy on the outside will run out of road and off into the gravel.
Yeah, and there's no runoff really. It's just a little bit of tarmac and then the gravel right there. And I can feel under my feet actually, it genuinely is sticky underfoot here as the rubber's going down. Of course, we've got GB3 here, GB4 they're here this weekend, but also the GTs and the other support races. Do you find that maybe if it did rain, for example, tomorrow, this wouldn't be the place to be, would it?
No, not at all. You want to be right on the outside there. We can actually see the circuit getting lighter.
Yeah.
So that's where you need to be when it rains. And it's quite interesting as well because early on in the weekend, you can actually do overtakes because this rubber isn't as bad. So you might be able to like try and get around the outside or do something like that. But as more and more rubber goes down, circuits like Donington, Silverstone, suddenly the line where the GT put down this massive blades of rubber with their huge tyres becomes more and more crucial to be on when you're racing.
Yeah, and we saw that actually earlier on this weekend with down at the old hairpin. I think Harry Reynolds went wide and couldn't, once he got off the rubber, that was it. He was off and into the gravel.
That's it. And I just want to point out as well, if you look at the surface here, how clean it is, there's nothing on it. But as soon as you come out wide here, you have all these bits of tyre marbles, that come straight off the tyre. And literally, the reason why I call them marbles is because that's what it's like as soon as you go on them. So not only is there less rubber and grip, you hit stuff like this, that's it, you're straight over there.
Yeah, and turn 1, Redgate, it's a technical corner, quite long radius. But let's head over to another part of the circuit, which is very difficult to get right as well. We're down here at the Fogarty S's now, which is left after the exhibition straight for the Grand Prix circuit. We go right for the national circuit. But both these chicanes have their own characteristics, but here GP at the moment. So let's talk about the Fogarty S's, and it's probably one of the fastest chicanes there is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's really, really great fun as a driver. It's so on the limit. There's no room for error. Personally, I loved driving this, and it's fun to coach, and it's fun to see the drivers doing it. It's a really great hotspot actually for viewing. If you were coming to view over the weekend, you could stand up on the banking here. You can see the last corner of the first hairpin and this incredible chicane.
Tell us about what it takes to get a good speed through here for a good lap time, because it's basically the start of the final sector, which is I think just before the chicane, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you come into the braking zone here. It's quite a late braking zone where you can see the board there, which is like the 1 meter board. 1 meter. It has a 1 on it.
100 meters.
Yeah, 100 meters. You'll be braking just after that, slowing it down, and then you want to aim to almost clip the tyre wall over these 2 yellow curbs there. They do look high from here, but they're actually, when you go through, the car is loaded up on the right side. So it just skims over on the left really nicely, hooks the car in, and then you can be really early on the power over the curb here. And the only reason you actually turn right is to stay on the circuit. You should have carried enough speed through the left that you're being forced all the way here. You're not actually driving the car here. The car is taking you here because of the speed that you're coming through. Yeah. So when you get to this point, you want to be starting to climb over these yellow curbs here, and you can actually see
they're a bit more rounded, aren't they, than the blue ones?
Exactly. If you hit the blue ones, that would really badly damage the car. It could, most likely it's going to do the tub-in. Yeah. But even if it doesn't just do the tub-in, it will launch the car up into the air. Wherever you land, you're going to land. That could be the wall on the far side.
Yeah.
You carry so much speed into here.
Yeah.
A little mistake is very, very costly.
It's a full commitment corner here. I remember driving when we raced in 2020 in GB3, what was British F3 back in the day, and it was apex speed. It must be approaching 100 miles an hour through here. But also, it's quite bumpy through here as well, isn't it?
It is. You definitely feel it in your spine as you bump over the curbs here. It's a really great feeling to say that when you get it out, and you know when you've done it right, because on the actual exit, you are just over the red and white curbs. Like your left tyres will just be literally getting closer and closer to that grass. And I'd say the reason why you turn right is to actually stay on the circuit.
Yes.
You're trying desperately to stay on the circuit, which is fantastic. And to the left here, you can actually see gravel.
Yeah, let's have a look over there.
People would have gone off, thrown gravel up over this part of the circuit. Normally it's when they get it wrong on the early part, they come round, they spin in the gravel, it all goes over here. But you carry so much speed through here that it clears up very quickly on the racing line. But this is what happens off the line. So it just shows again how overtaking here is very, very difficult to do. You can't really, once you get to this point, it's very one line. If you go over there, you're going again.
Yeah. You said it's hard to overtake, because of course it's not you don't slow down a huge amount because of the high speed. However, one of the main overtaking opportunities of the lap down into the Melbourne hairpin is the next corner. As we look almost over the summit there, you can see you can't even see the corner because it goes off into oblivion effectively. But this is definitely a place you can set up a move.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you've really got to be thinking that coming to this chicane, if you can force someone to defend, it will just make the run so much easier. The problem is that because it's so high speed, this is where the dirty air kicks in, and it's so easy that you think you've got a great run on someone, and it's only about this point in the corner, which is normally too late, where the front end will wash out. And then you're not going to stay on the circuit on the exit, and you lose that run.
So critical for racing, because trying to get it right, either if you're attacking or defending, is hugely important, and also not taking too much curves. So high jeopardy, high stakes, but good fun to drive.
Exactly. I was actually, as well, on top of that, going into this corner, we actually did see some overtakes last year. I know I pulled one off on Chloe Grant in the reverse grid race, but also me and Nicholas Taylor in the final race had a great battle, which actually ended into this chicane here, where I pinched him as much as I could to the inside, and knowing that if he had the inside for this corner, it would have been game over for it. Tried to go around the outside, locked up, and then at that point you have to go straight through. You know, your choices are the blue curbs or the gravel, and you've got to take the gravel.
Yeah,
and damage the car.
Exactly. Donington Park, a great circuit to race on. We're now down here at Goddard's, the final corner on the GP circuit, and it's actually another hairpin, left hand this time, as opposed to the Melbourne Loop, which is right-hander, and it's quite a long way downhill. Just talk to us about the challenges of this corner, because it's not a standard hairpin, is it, Max?
No, not at all. And I think it's very unique, and it's a corner that I really loved. Coming into it, it's a blind entry, so you really can't see where the apex is, and the trick is to not get sucked in by looking too close to where you are. If you look up there and just go, oh, that must be the apex, you're going to apex too early and you're going to have a really bad exit. So you have to make sure to prioritize the exit here, because this is going to be a really good overtaking opportunity into the first corner.
Yeah, it's a long run down there as well.
Exactly, yeah. So to do that, you're going to come in at a little bit of an angle before then coming in and apexing around here, where you can see the rubber comes in and starts going over the curbs. Again, you can feel it under your feet. Hook it in, and then it will fire you out. And it may look a bit like at this angle you're going to run out of road, but you're carrying so much speed, the car just grips in on the right side, and you'll be fine on the exit.
Yeah, it's quite hard to overtake into this corner, even though it is quite wide on the entry. It looks, especially from the camera angle, which is just over there, like you've got a lot of room, but it definitely pinches in at the apex as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's if you try and get up the inside, you have to really make sure you get your front wheels at least alongside here, because it's so easy for the driver on the outside to turn in. Even if they turn in a little bit early by their own fault, or maybe that's just their natural line, and it's so easy to then make contact because of that. If they're going to try and apex there, and then you're going to try and apex here, that can lead to a lot of crossing lines. Yeah,
exactly. And also I can see there's a bit of a sort of the grass has been rubbed away on the inside line here. Is that something that GB3 and 4 cars will be trying to do? Maybe cut across the inside here, or not really?
Not particularly. They might run more of this curve, maybe get a little bit on, but I would say that's probably getting quite excessive to the point where it's actually digging in there. That's maybe more of like what the GT lines do, because they have more power, so they can get in a little bit more and then get on the power and get on the exit. With underpowered, you have to make sure it's a lot more momentum based to keep that up.
And it's very different end to the lap than if you do the national circuit over there as well, with the chicane, which is very, very fast. This is quite a slow corner. Probably is it? It's actually, no, it's a bit faster than the Melbourne hairpin, isn't it? But yeah.
Just a touch, I think, yeah.
Just a touch. But again, very, very technical end to the lap here at Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Great to chat to Max about the track in more detail. Now let's watch a lap on board at racing speed. A downhill run to turn 1 of Redgate. Using all of the road on the left-hand side, you'll see he uses the pit exit to open up the entry. Down to 4th gear. Quite a fast apex here, and watch out for track limits on the exit, as we now have a long run down to the old hairpin. Through Hollywood on the right, just staying right, trying to minimise any steering input. Left of Craner curves, keep it left to open up the entry into the old hairpin very fast, down just 1 gear. All the curb on the entry, all the curb on the exit. We now rise up through Starkeys, over to the right-hand side, just setting ourselves up through Schwantz for a good entry into McLean's. McLean's is off camber and on the crest of a hill, so it can often push you wide, as we've seen Collins done that time. Then using all the curb on the left-hand side to open up Coppice Corner. This is a long exit here, so trying not to run too wide. And now we have the long run down past the exhibition centre. All we have to think about now is the braking point for Fogarty, which is a very, very fast and bumpy chicane. Braking down 2 gears, 4th gear, 1 apex, 2 apexes, 140 kilometres an hour through there, and then just 2 more sharp corners to go. The first is the Melbourne hairpin. Braking downhill very late, down to 2nd gear, late apex for a good run out of the corner, trying to minimise wheel spin. Car looks planted through there, technically doing a good job on the setup. And the final corner, Goddard's, again off camber, blind on entry, trying to hook the curb on the inside if you can, slightly missing it this time out, and then a good exit out of the last corner to finish our lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit.
Well, we're here in the assembly area now with cars getting ready to go out. Piers Pryor's just been chatting to a man with a very, very nifty little device, and I believe he was measuring the track temperature.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday about the fact that it was very warm and the sun was out all day. It's a bit more overcast today, a bit cooler this morning. Air temperature, you reckon, about 17 degrees, and track temperature about 28, so potentially the newer tyres won't be coming in as quickly because most of the drivers on the grid have taken 2 new left-hand side tyres, apart from, notably, Tom Mills in second place on the grid, who's got his right-hand side tyres on from yesterday, so used but lightly used left-hand side tyres. Maybe that'll help him at the start of the race get a bit of a launch, but also potentially might go away a little bit compared to his competitors at the end.
Yeah, in Parc Fermé yesterday we were looking at some of the tyres. The track temperature yesterday I believe was something like 34 degrees, and those tyres were absolutely wrecked after not doing too many laps.
Yeah.
So given that the track temperature is considerably cooler, I'm guessing that the tyres will last longer, but as you say, it will just take longer for them to get the optimum levels of grip, which around here, having done the track walk, which we saw in the show just now, is very, very important.
Yeah, we saw yesterday in the hotter temperatures with the track temperature and air temperature, their fastest about in the middle of the race. Potentially that might be pushed ever so slightly a lap or two later this morning. Maybe later on it'll be back to where it was yesterday, but it's just interesting to see the different strategies with tyres, with almost the whole grid, I'd say 3/4 taking those 2 new left-hand side tyres, but notably the KMR Sport drivers and I believe Kai Darianani as well, also just taking the used tyres from yesterday. So some drivers saving those 2 new tyres for the reverse grid later on, including Tom Mills, so hopefully they're thinking that might have an advantage then.
He's going to need to overtake. Excellent stuff. Well, as you heard behind, the whistle's just gone. I was going to chat to Ollie Dutton with Fortec because with Colin Queen on pole position and the 2 Indian drivers doing very well, as you mentioned a little bit, as Lewis mentioned a little bit earlier on, really looking good for Fortec. Let's see if they can challenge KMR Sport as we go racing here at Donington Park.
Well, hello once more as we get ready for more racing here around the Donington Park circuit. Of course, the 2023 season continues, and as was alluded to there, it is with a new pole sitter. Colin Queen is the first person this season to dethrone Tom Mills when it comes to his pole position quest and his title challenge. Tom Mills there has an incredible title lead, a whopping 60 points. That is nearly 2 race victories clear after 2 race victories yesterday. He'll have to start this one from second place on the grid though, and the top 3 are the same. But as we look backwards, there are some chops and changes that we have a lot to look forward to in this race. I am very much looking forward to it. It all comes down to the start from Colin Queen. He struggled a little bit from the front row of the grid yesterday in the second race that we had in the afternoon. Will he struggle once more, this time from pole position? Nerves will be at an all-time high for the Fortec driver, but hopefully he's found a thing or two. Let's take a look at the starting grid. Colin Queen starting from his pole position. Tom Mills starting on the front row for the 6th consecutive from a qualifying position. Cooper Webster starts from 3rd, and then an absolutely sensational personal best qualifying from Ruhan Alva, who will start from 4th place. In 5th, it's Liam McNeely, still hanging on to 2nd of the championship, but 5th on the road. He's got a lot of work to do alongside Josh Erfan for the Elite Motorsports team. He's had a decent return to the championship. He's had a lot of battles with Harry Reynolds as well. His teammate, he'll start from 7th, Jeremy Fairbairn from 8th position, a race winner in GB4. Then we get Darianani starting from 9th position again. His 2nd race in GB4 alongside Jack Clifford for the KMR Sport team that lead the team's championship Sid Smith, who had his joint personal best results in the first race yesterday, will start from 11th position, with Kilcarney, who had an issue into the gravel trap in the old hairpin, starts from 12th. The final couple of positions on the grid have Harry Burgoyne Jr. in 13th, a freshly rebuilt Dylan Hodgson racing car that Dylan Hodgson is driving, so we do get to see him out on circuit this time, and Thomas Lee starting from the rear of the field. A lot to look forward to in this race, but the big questions for a lot of us sat here, a lot of us watching: how much coaching has Nicholas Taylor given Colin Queen when it comes to the race starts, because he struggled a little bit yesterday? How much practice has he got, and how much has he learned? How much can he feel that clutch and hopefully get the race started? Well, Piers Pride joins me, Lewis McGlade in the commentary booth, and Piers, yeah, interesting one for Queen there.
It's going to be an interesting day of racing. I'm looking forward to these top three, Webster, Mills and Queen, going at it once again. Maybe even from the second row of the grid we might see a charge from the second Fortec driver as well, but we'll see. It's all to be seen. Again, and interesting to see, I don't know if you just mentioned, or we mentioned on the grid, Tom Mills doing a slightly different tyre strategy.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, Tom Mills has taken the right-hand side tyres he used yesterday on the left-hand side. Everyone else, 2 new left-hand side tyres in the top 5 or 6 places.
Interesting. Now, why would he do that?
The theory is that he wants to save his 2 new left-hand side tyres for the slightly warmer and slightly more up in the air reverse grid later on, because he thinks he can make his way through the field if he has a bit extra grip. However, it will mean that in theory he's slightly slower during this race, because new tyres in their first heat cycle are almost always faster.
You had an interview with Thomas Lee here after the race. He seemed very positive. Dylan Hodgson's had more problems. We'll talk about this for a second. That is coming down into the Fog ES. He's had an issue down there. Are there more problems for the Dylan Hodgson racing car? Again, they're a privateer team. They were working so hard over the evening, and I came when I first got in this morning. I got in about 7:45 this morning, and I saw the Dylan Hodgson racing team putting together the cars with getting a little bit of help, even from tools and stuff from Evans GP on one side, from Elite Motorsport as well. Goodness me.
Yes, here we are, cars lining up on the grid. It's so disappointing to see Hodgson not quite make it to the start of this race, considering how much effort they've put in behind the scenes to get that car on the, or at least to the dummy grid at least. But here we go. The first race of this morning, fourth race of this weekend. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have an instant stoppage because that car is stopped on circuit somewhere, but we're going, lights are on.
I think we're still going to go for it. They're still going to go for it at the front. There's been a jump start for Ruhan Alva. That is such a shame. You can see the shake of her head. Ruhan Alva will take the lead, but it doesn't matter because unfortunately it is a jump start. It's a very long hold on the grid, and Tom Mills should be taking over what will be second position on the road. He's got to the outside of Colin Queen as they race their way through Redgate. It could be good for the Fortec driver though. They're going to be side by side down the hill. 2 of the drivers fighting for this championship. Tom Mills, the title leader, going around the outside as they head through Hollywood, down into the Crater curves, down towards the old hairpin. Snaps of oversteer for the number 21, the blue and grey car on the right-hand side as they race their way up the hill. Colin Queen will have the inside line when they get towards McGlade. There's fantastic stuff from the 62 and the 21. Cooper Webster sat in 3rd position just behind them as they're still side by side at the top of the hill.
They're going side by side. They've done a whole lap, but Tom Mills has managed to hold it around the outside of McLean's. That's a great maneuver. As we see, is that Reynolds? No, yeah, that was Reynolds in the background fighting up.
I think it was Fairbairn.
Fairbairn, yes, as well. But that's great racing, the two of them, both giving each other enough room through the start of the race. I love seeing racing like that, where it's, hard and respectful. Cooper Webster now having a look at the back of Queen, but, Alva with the jump start is now in the lead. I'm almost certainly going to get some sort of penalty. Ooh. Whoa, Queen with a big wobble there. That's going to leave him under a lot of pressure.
He's overdriving it a little bit, and here we go to the inside. Cooper Webster's going to go as Tom Mills is almost looking down the inside of Ruhan Alva. This is getting a little bit messy. Cooper Webster's down the inside for second position at number 37, the black and blue car getting down the inside of the red and white. Out in the background, I think that might be Irfan, who's dropped backwards in the opening stages. Once again, a lock up there from Tom Mills. There's a big send down the inside from the number 16. That is actually Irfan. So it's actually Reynolds who's dropped backwards. One of the drivers that's up in the top 5 of the championship, dropping down the order. We are being told now it will be a 10-second penalty for the number 27 that is just going to lose the lead here because Tom Mills has come through at the end, or rather the start of the second lap.
Yeah, it's been a busy first lap, what with drama right from the start of the race as well, with Alva, of course, jumping the start. He's dropped back behind Mills now, and Mills has actually got a massive gap to the group behind, considering all that fighting has lost him a lot of time, and Queen has managed to stay ahead of Cooper, as we saw. McNeely now trying to get involved in all of this on the back of Webster, putting Webster under some pressure. Webster's going to have to go defensive, and does. McNeely looking for the outside. Can he get the cut back? He's switched underneath, front wing under the inside at the moment. No, I think he's going to think better of it and try and get him towards the end of the lap, but that is putting Irfan right in the back of this as well, and Fairbairn's close on the tail too. This is very, very close for between second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, almost down to ninth place in Kolkani.
Yeah, it's been truly a very interesting race start, as I get the feeling that that Queen should be able to pass Alva relatively quickly, to be perfectly honest, because you would suspect Alva, I mean, he knows he's jumped the start, he knows his teammate behind. That's a big move though from Fairbairn, straight down the inside of Irfan. I mean, he saw that one coming from a mile away as Fairbairn made his way through, took over what is now 6th position on the road as they're all fighting behind. It seems as though Reynolds has basically stopped the bleeding on his race, but he's still trying to defend a little bit from Sid Smith there on the inside, that number 99, the very brightly green highlighted Fox Motorsports car as well. Dayanani down the inside of him, Harry Burgoyne Jr., who I was having a good chat with Max Maserati a little bit earlier on yesterday. He's got fantastic pace, just needs to get the start of the race nailed and also qualifying, but the pace, the important bit, is there.
Yeah, quite a few lookups into turn one this lap. I heard it was either Tom Mills or Alva in second, who is subject to a penalty, of course, locking up into turn one, and then quite a lot of the drivers further down the field locking up too. But just like to mention about that move into the Melbourne hairpin, that was a solid move by Fairbairn, wasn't it, on
Yeah.
Clifford. That was a great manoeuvre, just sending it down to the inside, got it stopped, didn't miss the apex, drove off and didn't even lose that much time to the group ahead.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, goodness me. Tom Mills was pulled out an enormous lead. He's already 1.1 seconds looking for a third consecutive victory, and at this point, I mean, no... Obviously, there is that little caveat, of course. No one's taken 4 race wins as Colin Queen does get down the inside of Alva, who's going to pinch him a little bit as well. Oh my goodness, I thought he was going to let him go, but Alva does not. He fights him quite hard as they go through the fog. Yes, and that's going to cost Alva 1, 2, 3 positions. He's got dropped by Queen, got dropped by Webster, McNeely, and now Irfan as well, who's got down the inside, centred in, and the number 60 is going to make his way through. That was... I mean, I don't know if he knows about the 10-second time, but regardless, it was a little bit silly to try and leave it there.
He'll surely know that he's going to be getting a penalty, and I think I think unfortunately Alva's just kind of lost his head a little bit here. You can see he's making a few mistakes, and he's not really wanting to fight because he knows he's got a penalty, but at the same time he's trying not to lose some time. Here we go, side by side. You can see Queen on the racing line, takes that curb, and then it's not really a corner you want to be going side by side through, and at this point both of them would have been thinking, I do not want to take out my teammate. Ooh. And you can see the car taking off as the bottom of the tub hit that yellow curb, and that's what we've been talking about this weekend. You can't hit those curbs at the bottom of the car, because not only can it force you off the track, but it can also damage the tubs, as we've seen what has happened to Hotchin yesterday, and it led to him having to have a chassis change last night and potentially contributing to the non-start today.
Well, I mean, this is the whole thing. That a lot of these drivers, they are fairly new to this kind of level, so sometimes learning your way around the racing and understanding how and when to fight is the important bit. It's one of the things that I do remember Nicholas Taylor actually had to learn quite a bit last year, the how and when to fight. It's not just the way you fight, it's when you fight. Did he need to fight Queen there? If he hadn't have fought Queen there and just kind of like let him go through, accepting team and all that kind of stuff, and basically they're Reading as they're paying for the seat, they're privateers in that sense, but you still got to represent the team. You don't want to take your teammate out. He wouldn't have lost all those other positions. Here comes Cooper Webster and Liam McNeely. McNeely on the right-hand side in the 48. The white with the orange highlights trying to take over 3rd position in this race. Cooper Webster's going to be able just about to hang on, but McNeely's looking very feisty in this race. The driver that's 2nd in the championship still, I will remind you. Well, he wants to get some decent results onto the board. He struggled a little bit this weekend, and to be fair, he struggled last weekend as well. Yeah,
McNeely doing a good job in this race. He's definitely got better pace this time out than he showed yesterday, I think. He was a little disappointed with how yesterday went, but got the pace to be on the back of the front 3 now, almost certainly, and he's looking for that podium position once again. He's been very strong in that Fox Motorsport car. You can see in the white and orange and dark blue livery, they really stand out, those cars. A new team to the championship this season, but yeah, McNeely is again reminder that a lot of these drivers, their first experience of single-seater slicks and wings. McNeely having done, I think, Ginetta Juniors and Ginettas previously, and his first step up into this type of car. He's doing very well, currently in 2nd place in the championship. Yeah, it's a good drive from him, and also bringing his teammate as well, Sid Smith, on, as Sid's shown some good results yesterday inside the top 10 as well.
Yeah, certainly. So, yeah, I mean, you got to say the Fox Motorsport team, considering, like you say, they're new to the championship. I know Evans GPR as well. We were having a chat with a couple of the engineers and stuff yesterday. They're a new team. They're working hard. Same with Fox, but they are really giving it some to the likes of Fortec and KMR Sport, who are two of the returning drivers, returning teams rather, that we expect to be strong this season. Speaking of one of those Fox Motorsports cars, this is Sid Smith inside the top 10 with a 9th position at the moment, because he is ahead of Kulkarni, who's over the rear end. Sid Smith struggled a little bit, if I remember correctly. He did struggle a little in qualifying, but he's got better pace of it. I will remind you, the first race we did on Saturday, which of course was round 4 of the championship, he ended up finishing in 5th place in that race. He has got the speed in that number 99. It's just, again, same kind of thing, copy and paste what we were saying about Harry Burgoyne Jr. there. Has the pace. It's just about nailing it at the right times, where you're getting it done in qualifying, and then you're getting that track position. You're kind of keeping that track position early doors in the race.
Yeah, we mentioned that Tom Mills has been so strong this year because he's a second-year driver, and a lot of the learning that you gain between doing the first and second year, especially in this sort of, a lot of the drivers, their first step into either car racing or single seaters is a lot of it is just getting used to a race weekend, and when you need to be, when you need to find the speed, when you need to push, when you don't need to push, how to push the cars, when, where to overtake in the races, and how the cars react to different race situations. So it's not just learning the car for the season for the ultimate pace, because you can have the ultimate pace, but stringing a race weekend together is more than just that. I mean, Tom Mills, I don't think, got the fastest lap in either of the previous 2 races yesterday, and won both of them.
In fact, actually, it was third place that got both fastest laps in the previous race, because Cooper Webber had one and Colin Queen had the other.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, that was a very scary moment once again from Cooper Webster, and once again sliding his way through the rear. I do remember him doing that an awful lot yesterday, which does give me some concerns about the rear tyre life on that Evans GP car, the number 37. Bit of a lock up there from the front right coming into the Melbourne hairpin. And like I say, he's pushing his car to them. He's really feeling the pressure from Liam McNeely, who wants to get back on the podium, because McNeely's actually not had a podium since we went racing in Donington Park, and he took that victory in the third race.
Yeah, he's had a strong season, but last time out, I think by his own standards, not so good with a 7th and a 5th. But it's the consistency. He hasn't had a result outside of the top 10, as many of the drivers at the front of the field have. But it's just building a championship throughout the year, banging in the results, and it's also a championship is won and lost, or at least positions are won and lost, often on your worst days rather than your good days. It's how good your bad days are is what will be the difference.
Well, that's why Max Maserati was able to contend for the championship so late last year. We spoke about being Mr. Consistency. He had no lower than 6th place for, I think it was a good 85-90% of the season.
Didn't win a race though.
Did not win a single race.
But was right up there until the last round of the season.
And it's because, like you say, the worst races for Nicholas Taylor were worse than Max Maserati's worst races. And like I say, Nicholas Taylor had, I would argue, through the season, whether it was just the car or the pace or whatever, he had the pace over Max Maserati for most of the season. It just took him a while to click on the other side. I hope he is listening as well, because I just like the idea that he's hearing us roast him on the broadcast.
We're not roasting him. He was a championship contender. Well, that's all you can ask for, really, isn't it? But looking at the lap times now, Tom Mills is still pulling out pulling away at the front of the field, 4 tenths faster than anyone else on circuit that last lap. So clearly those used left-hand side tyres are not doing him any disservice whatsoever, with a fastest middle sector of the race this time round as well. So he's almost 2 or 3 tenths faster in the middle sector alone. And saying that, Queen's coming back at him with a purple last sector, but that last lap again, Tom Mills, fast lap of the race, 27.88. 10th faster than Queen in second place, and the gap's nearly 5 seconds now. Wow.
I was about to point this out. How many race victories have we had, races that have we had in GB4 that have been won by 5 seconds or more?
Can't think of many.
No, I mean, it sometimes happens in the reverse grid race, one person getting away from the field and then everyone else battling between themselves, and it just kind of allows you to run away whilst they're all fighting. So it's happened, but typically in those reverse grid races. In a race like this, where you're around people that are as fast as you, on the same kind of money as you, this is a very uncommon drive, and I'm not shocked, because Tom Mills has been this good all season. He said yesterday about his spatial awareness and stuff, his ability to really wrestle the car, his ability to underdrive the car whilst still getting good speed out of it. It's really phenomenal to watch as Sid Smith continues to defend from Kulkarni in the battle for 9th position. 6.5 minutes left to go in this race, so still plenty of laps of racing.
Plenty of laps of racing, and that is Smith dropping 2 wheels on the dirt, which will mean that he has to be a little bit careful going into the hairpin here, because he'll feel a little bit less grip. You get two wheels on the dust or the dirt like that, and it just picks up the dust into the surface of the tyre, and you will struggle with grip a little bit compared to what you'd normally expect. But he's managed to keep it tidy in this last sector, soaking up the pressure from Kulkarni, and also looking to get on the back of this group there is of course Harry Reynolds in the Elite Motorsport, number 17 car. You can see back of shot there, black, yellow, a car with the white numbers. Reynolds having shown great pace in the previous couple of rounds. A bit disappointed today, considering this is the second fastest lap from qualifying sets the grid for this race, and he was right down the back of the field for this one, so he didn't get 2 laps in qualifying that he was happy with. And trying to salvage a good result from this, he'll be looking to make some moves in the reverse grid later on today as well, I'm sure.
He did actually qualify in 7th. He dropped back quite a lot in the early stages. It's why when I saw him dropping back, I thought it might have been Eartham, but maybe like a little bit of misexperience or whatever. But no, it was on the first lap. Maybe he had a really, really slow start. He got caught out and dropped down the field. He's been working his way back up. Reynolds definitely has the pace, but I think he finished in 13th in the previous race after some of the issues. Obviously, that big spin coming down the old hairpin in the previous race. See, the last time that we saw Webster, he was under enormous pressure from Liam McNeely.
Yeah.
We've got 5 minutes left to go, and he's dropped Liam McNeely. He's caught up to Colin Queen and is now just. I'm very impressed with Cooper Webster this season, and Evans GP, with just how much they've clicked with this car in this championship.
Yeah, Cooper's clearly driving the wheels off that thing. He's been consistently the best. Whoa, Irfan looking at the inside. Is there contact? Yeah, contact. Irfan spilling around McNeely. That was just a manoeuvre that was not really on, if I'm completely honest. He came from a long way back and he wasn't alongside in the braking zone. Hopefully we can get another look at that. Luckily, it looks like McNeely's going to escape with... Is he going to have any damage? Because it's easy to bend the rear suspension. It looks like he's okay, so he'll be able to continue on. But unfortunately, Irfan with a bit of an opportunistic move there that wasn't pulled off, and it's really hampered McNeely's race.
But that's why, of the 2 hairpins, I mean, those 2 at the final section, both of them are really, really awkward to make moves on. The first one being the Melbourne hairpin. We'll take actually. You talk us through this.
Here we go. Yeah. So Irfan looking at the inside of the last corner, but just coming from too far back really, and he didn't brake late enough to get alongside, because McNeely probably didn't see that he was alongside, because the way that corner goes in off camber and it's quite an open entry, as soon as the car darts to the inside behind you, they're in your blind spot pretty much until the apex. So McNeely, you don't want to just miss the apex just in case they're there. So yeah, I think the blame will lie there on Irfan. I don't think it was deliberate, clearly not. No one wants to make contact in these cars, and it's hurt his race as well. But yeah, unfortunately that means that Irfan's lost his front wing as well by the looks of it. So it's an unfortunate racing incident really there, but Irfan's going to have to take the blame for that one. McNeely will be, I'm sure, not particularly happy with that.
Yeah.
But it's part of the learning experience. A lot of these drivers potentially may never have raced in the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit before, and know that that corner can suck you in on the inside. It's we're now seeing some manoeuvres down into the Melbourne hairpin, and you just mentioned a moment ago that both of these hairpins, although hairpins are often prime overtaking opportunities, they're both quite difficult actually, really, because Melbourne hairpin is a downhill braking zone, and at a late apex we see a Kulkarni going on the inside. Now that's how you do a manoeuvre into Goddard's at the last corner.
That was good.
That was good, but Melbourne hairpin, downhill, late apex, it's easy to miss your braking point and go too deep even up the inside because it's downhill, and then Goddard's is off camber and a long apex that drops away throughout the apex, so you can quite easily clatter into the car you're going up the inside of, as we now see Harry Reynolds going past Sid Smith. So Sid Smith going down 2 places in about 3 corners by the looks of it, unless he can hold it around the outside of the Craner curves and into the old hairpin. Looks like that move's done for Reynolds.
Yeah, it's well timed from Harry Reynolds. He just read it beautifully going through Redgate. Obviously Sid Smith tried to get one back on Kulkarni and was unable to do so. Kulkarni now at the front of this in that red and white Fortec car. Harry Reynolds in the black and yellow, the Thetford-based Elite Motorsport squad. And then you've got the Fox car directly behind that as the pressure is being dished out. But yeah, you've got to say, it's not the same, but I have raced this circuit an awful lot on the Sims and stuff, and in all my years of giving it a go, I think I've made 2 successful moves into Goddard's, and I've tried more than that. I can tell you that for free. It's so easy to mess up, because as you go in, the circuit falls away from you, and it's like when you go into that inside line, the only place the car wants to go is into the car on the outside, unless you've done it like Kulkarni did there.
Yeah. Does that say more about your driving than the corner there, Lewis?
No comment.
Moving on. We're now looking at, that is, of course, Jack Clifford chasing down the back. Is that now? No, that is Irfan with the damaged front wing. So Irfan will definitely be struggling for front end grip. We watch him understeer
as well
through turn 1. We're now, and then we've got Kulkarni and of course Harry Reynolds. So despite Irfan's altercation with Liam McNeely. He's still ahead of his other teammate, Harry Reynolds, who's been sort of slowed down after that poor start. But it's good to see Irfan back on the grid. He was here for round 1 at Alton Park, then was away doing other things for the previous round at Silverstone, and then, of course, because he wasn't at Silverstone, didn't take part in the first race yesterday because we had that carried over because of the weather, but now back on the grid, and hopefully we'll see more of him this year because he's clearly got some good pace and is keen to have a fight if sometimes potentially a little bit optimistic, but I'm sure he'll learn from that, because that's the thing about this championship. This is for learning. It's one of the first steps in the single-seater ladder.
Absolutely.
And it's an opportunity for the driver to figure out, how you need to overtake in a car versus a kart or a saloon car, a single-seater car, because it's a bit different. It is a bit different to even, Fiestas or Saxos or Ginetta Juniors that a lot of these drivers come from. You can't give someone the hip and shoulder maybe the same way as you can in a kart or a closed-top car. But now Clifford is applying the pressure on to the hobbled Irfan.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to say, this is where, as Tom Mills starts the final lap of the race, this, for a lot of these drivers, this is where the journey into Formula One it starts. And we said it because obviously GB4, the next stepping stone is GB3. GB3, as we've seen, the next stepping stone is to Formula 3. Formula 3 to Formula 2, Formula 2 to Formula 1. Now, don't get me wrong, that sounds really, really easy when you put it like that. Obviously, it is really not, and it's a calendar which gets harder, but you need series like this, which are the learning. It's the base platform. It's what props up the whole calendar. It's such an important stepping stone on that road to Formula 1. That's why we see some of these superstars moving their way forward. Tom Mills cleared off way into the distance, and the battle for second is on.
Yes, the battle for second is very much still on this week. This battle has been going on, flipping and flopping between these two for the 2 races yesterday, and it's going to continue on today with, of course, a second and a third and a third and a second. Yesterday, Webster's had great pace, and it seems like that Evans GP car of Webster always comes on strong at the end of the race, doesn't it?
He's been lost.
Oh no!
Queen's made a mistake. He's gone wide going through Coppice. Bam goes one board, bam goes the next board. He's dropped back. He's going to drop back behind Alva here. If he can keep ahead of Fairbairn, he will actually stay on the podium, weirdly enough. But that was a very costly mistake. We'll talk about that one in a few moments' time. Ruhan Alva's come through to take 3rd position, but a reminder, he jumped the race start and has a 10-second post-race penalty.
Oh no!
There's more stuff going on here. That is Harry Reynolds, who's off at Coppice as well.
Same corner.
I wonder if there's something slippy on the outside of the circuit there. We'll see Tom Mills cross the line, though, to take victory in one of the most dominant races we've seen in GB4. Cooper Webster will come across the line in 2nd, and there's more going on. That is Irfan and Clifford as well in 5th and 6th. What has happened at the end of this race? I do believe Queen will hang on to 3rd position once Alva gets his post-race penalty, but Piers prior, what have I just seen?
We literally were just talking about thinking that the race was going to wind up, and is that Jack Clifford's car hobbling to the end? That's not Clifford.
It's Darian Hardy.
Is that Darian Hardy?
It is Darian Hardy.
See, he's had some contact somewhere as well. Oh, it all kicked off on the last lap. It started off with Queen, I don't know if we're going to get a replay, but it started off with Queen just dropping a wheel on the grass on the exit of Coppice. Then Harry Reynolds seemed to follow him in. Potentially there was an issue here. Oh, and this is the contact between Clifford and Irfan. It happened early on the run down towards the Melbourne hairpin. So clearly, with the front wing damage of Irfan, he's gone maybe slowly through the chicane, and then Clifford's tried to cut underneath and mistimed it. Well, again, we're just speculating there. We haven't seen any more than you've seen on the screen there, but that's a dramatic end to the race, and we'll keep you updated with any penalties. Alva has been issued a 10-second penalty for jumping the start.
Yeah, obviously this is all speculation. We'll take a look then at the order from the end of the race. Tom Mills taking his 3rd victory of the weekend, ahead of Cooper Webster for, once again, the 3rd time, ahead of Colin Queen for the 3rd time. Then we get Fairbairn, and then we get Alva dropping back to 5th place, even with that 10-second time penalty. So still a fantastic result. Kulkarni in 6th, so fantastic for the 2 Indian Fortec drivers, and a great race for Fortec as a whole. Fox Motorsport of Sid Smith finishes in 7th position with McNeely, Burgoyne Jr. and Darianani inside the top 10 in his debut weekend, with Lee, Irfan, Clifford, Reynolds and Hotchin. Big questions though as to what on earth happened between Irfan, Clifford, and what happened to Reynolds. Obviously we saw the slide off the circuit as well from Queen. I was wondering if there was anything slippery potentially at Coppice, whether it was just that they were pushing too hard. The way Coppice works is you go over the crest. The circuit, it doesn't fall away from you. It gets kind of flat over the top. But as you're going over the crest, you almost like lose a little bit of grip on the front end. It can push you out wide. And if you touch any of that grass on the outside, you go. I suspect that's probably what happened to both Queen and Reynolds. But again, pure speculation there. And of course, that incident there between Irfan and Clifford. Again, Irfan, as Piers rightly said, did have some front wing damage, and so potentially was a little bit slow through the chicane, maybe pulled it over to one side, maybe defended late, maybe it was a complete misjudgment from Clifford. Who knows? But there is a lot for the race stewards to look at, obviously, between now and what will be the 4th race of the weekend, round 9 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, which will be happening a little bit later on this afternoon, just a little bit close to 4 o'clock, say quarter to 4 local time. Tom Mills taking 3 victories this weekend, and again, absolutely phenomenal. That is 5 race victories in 2023. He is having a great year. I saw him driving around the paddock early with some, as it was said on social media, some interesting setup changes because he didn't have a front wing and he didn't have a helmet on or anything, as he was just testing some stuff around the paddock. We'll let him get his helmet off. We'll let him have a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a debrief with the team. And it'll be interesting to see how Tom Mills thought about that race. Of course, talking about the race start with Ruhan Alva coming through the middle with that jump start as well, having to battle his way back past it and then taking an unbelievably dominant victory with the same podium we've had in the 2 previous races. Mills, then Webster, then Colin Queen. Mills will run over again. Celebrations. Emily Mills standing by to have a little bit of a chat. Obviously, all the team, all the family, keeping close, passing on all the information. There is Colin Queen as well. Richard Dutton, Ollie Dutton will have a quick chat, and here is Tom Mills coming over to have a chat with Jon Jackson.
Yeah, Tom Mills here, absolutely dominant as he talks to his engineer after, I mean, that was the most dominant race we've had this weekend. So Tom Mills, KMR Sport, designed the logo, drives the car, and I mean, that was the most dominant win so far this weekend. 3 wins already with a chance of 4. I mean, you can't get better than that.
No, it's been fantastic. That race was a lot more enjoyable than the other 2. I got a good start, and me and Colin had a great first lap. He gave me room on the outside. It would have been very easy to nerf me wide, but no, race fair. I just got in front, and then with Alva jumping the start, I knew I had to get past him as soon as I can, otherwise he was going to back me up into the pack. So as soon as I got past him, I knew I had a car in between, and then I just got my head down and drove better than I did yesterday, and that's why I was able to get the gap.
Now, Piers Pryor's been saying all weekend that you've been taking turn 1 better than anyone, and you know he can always tell when a driver is faster in the circuit from how they take the first corner, and that's where you made the move to take the lead, and that was it. You know, a 6-second gap at the end.
Yeah, the car feels really nice to drive, so it gives you confidence in high speed. So, but yeah, thanks, Piers. That's nice. But yeah, it's a joy to drive, and Donington Park is nice, and yeah, just controlling the race from the front. I was just trying not to do any track limits, being careful of the blocks in the chicane, just trying to take it, bring it home, and the gap was still going up. So yeah, couldn't ask for more.
Well, 3 race wins so far, and I think you've saved a full set of tyres. Is it for the, no, just two new tyres? You've used them all?
Nothing, yeah,
you got nothing. Well, what are you hoping for in the reverse grid race then?
Move forward. It's always hard. I think we've seen across the weekend it's hard to overtake around here when you get within the dirty air. So yeah, we used all our new tyres yesterday, so we were on old ones then, and these 2 both had new lefts on, so I was expecting them to be faster, worse than yesterday, but the car felt better than it did yesterday on the old tyres. So
yeah, it must be very reassuring. Tom Mills, go and continue your celebrations. 3 trophies already for Tom Mills, 3 race wins so far this weekend for KMR Sport. I'm just going to come in here and chat to Cooper Webster, if that's all right. How are you doing? You know, a tricky end to the race for Colin there, and you take P2 and another trophy, 3 trophies so far, with the chance of 4 this weekend.
Yeah, that race was good, considering we finished second, but I didn't feel like I had the speed as good as I did in the other race when I was catching Tom. But yeah, I don't know. There was someone got a ridiculous start, or they jumped it by like 3 seconds.
That was Alva, yes, Ruhan Alva. You
yeah.
got a penalty, 10-second penalty for that, yeah.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. That's like spooked me a bit at the start. And then he almost hurt his teammate. I caught Colin heaps because they were fighting, and I was like, oh my gosh. So, no, that helped me a little bit. But apart from that, yeah, I just kind of put the pressure on Colin, and he made a mistake. I nearly did the same thing as him 2 laps before, so that corner's, yeah, tricky.
Excellent. Well, you had a bit of a battle with Liam McNeely, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, but congratulations, Cooper Webster, coming second with Evans GP. We're going to speak to Colin Queen very, very quickly. Obviously had that moment at the end of the race there, but still managed to take a podium. But, you know, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. Colin, a little bit of a moment there, but you still managed to end up on the podium.
Yeah, no, it's just an amateur mistake for me on the last lap. I messed up the entry a bit and didn't want Cooper to capitalize on that. So just held the throttle down and hoped for the best, but just understeer got the best of me and yeah, turned the car around. But yeah, it's points gone. You know, it would have would have liked to settle for second, you know, with how Tom just carried away with that race. But yeah, you know, it's everyone's game in the third race. You know, it's all about survival, who makes the least mistakes, and just trying to rack up as many points as possible.
Absolutely. We'll let you get on with the podium, Colin Queen, with Fortec coming third there. These drivers are going to go straight to the podium. I don't know if we're ready. Very, very busy day of racing here at Donington Park. Looks like maybe they're not quite ready here. I've got to do a big shout out to Gemma from MSV, celebrating her birthday today, still working away here at Donington Park. You'll see her in the background. She's the one who'll be handing over the trophies, the hats. So, you know, if you see her there, maybe in the chat, happy birthday, Gemma, would be quite nice. Just, you know, keep it topical. She's doesn't want anyone to know, but it's fine. I found out and I'm going to tell everyone. But yeah, a lot of people behind the scenes here with MSV doing an amazing job of getting this championship off the ground last year, brand new first year, coming into this second year, and it's just getting stronger and stronger, as we've seen with, you know, these three drivers here who have finished the first three races, all of them on the podium, absolutely pushing each other all the way. Tom Mills, absolutely dominant, and you know, there's one more race coming up later on. We'll talk more about that in a second, but Lewis McGlade will talk you through this second podium of the Donington race weekend.
Kind of disappointed Jon Jackson didn't sing happy birthday then, if I'm perfectly honest. That's what we need to have for the next race. But anyway, yes, happy birthday to Gemma. Again, we'll give her a bit of a shout out. Working hard, did have a good chat with her yesterday. As Colin Queen will take his third consecutive third place finish, his third of the weekend as well. There is the trophy from the birthday girl. Then of course, into second place will be Cooper Webster again. He's looked really strong. He's had 4 podiums in the last 5 races now. Obviously, the other one being a retirement in the second race at Silverstone. Up onto the top step of the podium, though, speaking of 4 and 5, it's 4 race victories in 5 races for Tom Mills. He's had 5 this season, and again, looks like a properly unstoppable force as his championship lead gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, by the way, Colin Queen should take over the next position in the championship. Should be taking over second position because of the issues for Liam McNeely through that race, obviously being spun round. So finally, it's been a lot of work and a lot of podiums, despite McNeely's issues through the weekend. And the previous weekend, it's taken him this long to go and take over second position in the championship. But Colin Queen has should finally be taking over that position. Again, the chats between the KMR Sports Squad, between Gemma as well. And I think that's the champers being passed over to Gemma as well. So again, big shout out. That'll probably be dealt with much after the weekend because there's still a lot to do. Again, another race coming up this weekend. We'll head down though, so you can stop hearing my waffling because we want to hear what's happened to Fairbairn. Obviously, Piers Pryor is with him.
Down here once again at the GB4 Media Pen, and we've got Jeremy Fairbairn once again. Jeremy, thanks for joining us once again after the race. Pretty solid race for you, considering you just kind of stayed out of trouble most of the race. P4 in the end.
Yeah, hectic race for sure. Yeah, just managed to keep my nose clean. That was really the goal. From starting P8, got some good overtakes at the beginning, and then just kept my nose clean the rest of the race.
You had a front row seat for all the drama that kicked off on the last lap, especially with Queen, and you saw potentially on the rolling in lap, the cars scattered everywhere. Did you see what happened to Queen more specifically?
I did, yeah. He just dropped the wheel going up the crest. It's a pretty difficult corner, picking up understeer later in the session, but yeah, just carry a bit too much speed and drop the wheel, unfortunately.
P4's a good result for you. Happy with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Good points, but not exactly where we want to be. Hopefully we pull off a podium spot in the next race.
Do you know where you're starting in the next one?
I do not. I've got to look. It's a reverse grid, obviously, so yeah, we'll check that out.
Reverse grid is always a bit tricky, you know, of course, everyone out of position compared to their pace. What's your tactic? What's your outlook for the race?
Keep my nose clean and see how many positions I can get.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Let's bring in Ruhan Alva. Ruhan, an excellent start from you there.
Yeah, that's not an excellent start, really. Just jumped it by quite a bit.
Yeah, you mentioned to me just off camera a moment ago that it was just, you didn't mean to go early. It just something that happened with the clutch?
Yeah, I gave it, so in the first race I didn't give it enough bite points, and I just almost stalled at the start. It was really bad. So now I gave it a bit too much, and the car rolled, and once it started rolling, I just had to go. No point waiting after that.
And then you just, basically, at that point, you were in the lead, you knew you had a penalty straight away, didn't you? We could see you shake your head.
Yep, I knew it instantly because the second you jump the start, you're going to get a 10-second penalty. So just had to get my head down.
But not a bad race even after then, considering your pace was pretty good. At one point you had a purple middle sector, I believe, and the car seems to be coming on. You seem to be getting more and more gelled with the car and in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, the car was really good this session, finally getting really comfortable with it. Pace was really good. I think we were third fastest or fourth fastest, my team was telling me, and the car is really good. The team's done an amazing job. Colin was running P2 and he should have finished P2, but I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Maybe made a mistake, but he was doing a really good race as well.
Yeah, Colin unfortunately looks like he dropped a wheel on the exit of Coppice on the last lap, but great to see you having some good pace. Hopefully we'll see you went a bit too little in the first with the clutch and then a bit too much in the last one, so you'll have the Goldilocks zone in the final one.
Yep, let's hope so.
Reverse grid race as well. Do you know where you're starting? And if you do, what's the plan?
I think it's around P6, and I think we have a very strong chance for a podium as long as I launch the car properly this time. But yeah, I think we can probably finish on the podium this time.
Brilliant, thanks for chatting to us, Ruhan. And we've also got Kai Direnani, come on in. Kai, good to have you in the championship this weekend. Always good to have extra drivers. How are you finding the championship so far?
It's a good championship. It's a good car to drive. I'm getting up to speed as quickly as possible, and yeah, trying to find the pace quicker on the opening laps. Yeah.
And of course, this is your first experience of the Donington GP circuit on a race weekend in GB4. It must be pretty cool to be driving these cars around here.
Yeah, it's a really cool experience, especially on a new circuit as well. But yeah, trying to get to grips with the car as quickly as possible. Yeah.
And the results so far this weekend, of course, new to the championship, so maybe not straight up there, but you plan to come back in later rounds this year and hopefully push on from the progress you've made already this weekend?
Yeah, we see. I probably am going to be joining for maybe 1 or 2 more rounds. But I think that's to be confirmed a bit later. But yeah, looking forward to pushing a bit more and getting some better results in the future as well.
Brilliant, thanks for chatting to us. Good to have you on the grid, and hopefully we'll catch up with you later on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I will let you go off to do whatever you want to do. John?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was some slick racing, and then at the end there, it all kind of, things happened.
A lot happened.
We'll catch up with some of the other drivers. Obviously, Josh Irfan there was very unlucky with Jack Clifford. I think he lost his front wing there. It's very tricky for me, actually, because when you're going to the podium here, you're commentating, and it's trying to get across here. So the last couple of laps, I'm not so good on. But I mean, that was just one of those things, I'm guessing, with Jack Clifford, where he probably didn't realise that the car in front was going slower, maybe?
Well, we didn't see the start of the incident. We only saw the aftermath. So we saw that at that point, Jack Clifford had already mounted the rear of Josh's car. But we knew that Josh had front wing damage and was going to be losing front end grip from the contact he made with McGlade earlier on in the race. So potentially he went through that chicane, Jack Clifford got a run and then defended, and 2 into 1 doesn't go, and unfortunately ended both of their races along with Harry Reynolds. So it's a nonce finish for both of the elite motorsport cars. A disappointing race for them. We think Harry Reynolds probably did exactly the same as Colin Queen, but we haven't seen yet, so it'd be good to maybe catch up with him later about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then of course Colin Queen really disappointingly just making a tiny error on the final lap from second position. He'd driven so well all weekend throughout that race as well. And it shows how fine the margins are. Like all 3 of those, Webster, Mills and Queen, have been almost inseparable and making no mistakes this weekend. And the first tiny error, and that's it, effectively almost losing the race. Managed to luckily keep going and salvage a podium position.
Yeah, very, very impressive him to keep going there. I just want to ask you really one quick question. It's something that Tom Mills was saying, that he actually was using old tyres. They haven't got any tyres, any brand new tyres left for the reverse grid race. They haven't, which is interesting because we discussed it before. But the other 2 drivers who were on the podium, they took 2 brand new tyres, and Tom was expecting them to be a lot quicker. So that makes his victory more impressive, that he's driving on old tyres, and I'm guessing it's just down to just such a good drive.
Yeah, literally drove away from the field in that race. I mean, he was helped by the lap 1 and 2 fighting from 2nd, 3rd and 4th backwards. But yeah, he drove away. He was the fastest car on track by quite some margin in that race. Race 1 and 2, also race 1 from Silverstone and race 1 from Donington yesterday. He was probably one of the fastest drivers, but actually didn't get the fastest lap, whereas that last year I think he got fastest lap by 3.5, 4 tenths or something like that, and was every single lap the fastest driver on circuit, pretty much in every single lap.
Good mentality as well, though, because if you're out the front there, you haven't got to push as hard, but that's when mistakes happen, I'm imagining. But it'd be interesting to see if Tom can come from right towards the back and win 4 races in a weekend, which, I mean, 3 races in a weekend for GB4 I think is the first time ever a driver's done that. Obviously 1 race is technically come over from Silverstone, but still very, very impressive. 1 more race coming up. 3:30 is the time that we needed to get this stream live. It's perfectly placed in between the Monaco Grand Prix and the start of the Indy 500. So, Absolutely, like someone there has absolutely done us a favour with so much amazing motorsports on. So yeah, get the stream loaded up at 3:30 because it's going to be wild, because we have the reverse grid race. We've got the fastest drivers from qualifying towards the back of the grid. There's going to be a lot of overtaking. It's going to be thrilling, and we'll find out whether Tom Mills can make his way all the way from the back to win his 4th race this weekend. We'll be back at 3:30 in the GB4 Championship.